Most entrepreneurs think to themselves, I need money to grow. But that's simply not the truth. The smartest businesses use customers' money to grow. So instead of thinking, I'm just going to wait for funding, I'm going to wait to save the money up, I'm going to wait for the grants to clear, you can instead use the cash flow from customers buying your product to grow the business. So today we're going to talk about a concept called customer financed acquisitioning. We're going to talk about how it works, and then we're going to talk about why it matters, especially in an African context. But first, who am I? What is up, you guys? Sage here. I'm CEO founder of Legacy Africa. I'm also a partner in a business called Office Cube, among many other things. But today we're talking about customer financed acquisitioning. So first, I will explain the concept simply. Basically, customer finance acquisition means you use your customers to find your growth. For example, you make a sale, you reinvest the profits into acquiring more customers, you repeat, and the loop compounds. So in a nutshell, you create the concept first of what it is that you would like to do, what it is that you would like to build, how it is that you would like to solve the people's problems. You sell that concept solution to the people who would like that solution, with whatever minimum viable proof you would need that you are going to be able to deliver this service. Um, be that knowledge of where you would supply the things, be that whatever minimum viable frame of reference they would need in order to believe that you can deliver on your promise is what you will use to sell it. And if there is a need for it, if people have budget, authority, need, and timing, then number one, that exercise of finding the people will teach you how it is to find leads, teach you how it is to qualify leads, teach you what it is to sell, which are skills you're going to need when you do eventually build this product. And you can use the money from the pre-sales in order to start the business itself. And you can use the fact that you have already pre-sold to get the next customers. And if you price your thing correctly, then the margins from each individual sale should be more than enough to cover the acquisition of the next two customers, no matter what the cost of acquiring the next customer is. The sale from the first one should be enough to get the second and third and fourth and the fifth. So what happens typically in businesses is that they will put themselves in the hole, meaning they will take out a loan, they will take out whatever it is, out of pocket, whatever the case, of X amount, and then the uh, acquisition of the first customer will be paying off initially what it cost them in order to build the thing to begin with. The acquisition usually of, let's say, the first customer, it costs you money to get, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. But the idea is, if you have these five customers and you carry into month two, month three, then you're getting paid back. Like from month three you start breaking even, month four is your first profitable month. Whereas a different way to structure it is you structure it so that before you even start delivering the service, you're already paid in full and are profitable. So that by the time you start making the service, you can be fully furnished out, fully decked out. You can fully have everything that you need in order to make this service delivery as smooth as possible, this product as good as possible, right? Okay, that's what the concept of customer financed acquisition means. Very, very important concept. Very basic concept that they don't teach you in school. Fortunately or unfortunately, as far as I understand, I've never heard of this being taught. Hey, no, not that I've been to all the levels. But as far as I know, they teach you very high level strategic thinking. That's what the MBA teaches you, is how to work the already existing machine, but they don't teach you how to build the machine. And so, from the School of Hard Knocks, from my graduation, summa cum laude, double triple MBA in YouTube from YouTube University, I bring this knowledge to you, as well as the many many books I've read, thousands of hours of podcasts, etc. And so the customers find your growth. You make the sale, you reinvest the profit into acquiring more customers, you repeat, and you just, at every interaction, you just become more and more profitable because there's no red line that you're fighting back from. So why this matters, especially in a South African context, there's limited funding, it's difficult to access capital, and there are early stage constraints. So cash flow matters more than hype. Huh. In a South African slash African concept, companies that don't go by this, I'll give you an example of there's this guy who made a company called Skinny Smooth Socks. I'm sorry to call you out, brother. My favorite interview in business history. He's on the news channel and he's like, I need a cash injection of 500 rands to take the business to the next level. And the guy sitting across from him was trying to like lecture him or advise him, or it's like, no, business, I don't need solutions. I don't need solutions. I need money to take business to the next level. It's my favorite interview ever. And the hole that that man found himself in, the hole that the owner of Drip found himself in, is as a result of your basic unit economics not being what you would like them to be. Meaning what? Meaning per sale, you're not profitable per sale. You may be profitable after 10 sales due to how low the margins are on your thing. And the basic concept that these entrepreneurs typically follow is, if we capture the market is worth this much, and therefore if I capture the entire market, my company will be worth this much. The interesting thing about that concept is assuming that you'll capture the market is a very dangerous and extremely large assumption. Assuming that people want your product at all is a very dangerous assumption. And I don't think it's a sustainable way to move forward. I think the most sustainable way to move forward is to validate within the marketplace what it is that the marketplace wants, and to adapt your solution to their problem rather than trying to shift their problem to need your solution. Again, budget, authority, need, and timing. The need part is very, very important, because someone could have the money to do your thing. They could have the ability to say yes, but they just don't need it, you know. And so when that pillar is gone, you know, the fallacy of the build it and they will come in an African context is, you will build it and we won't be there because we don't want your thing. And so that's the pitfall that entrepreneurs fall into, is you can get approved for the certain grants, you can get approved for the certain vouchers that you're entitled to, but I feel that that entitlement becomes the downfall of many SMEs. And so you ask yourself, well, why is it that the failure rates in an African slash South African context are so high, abnormally high? It is because of that almost entitlement to success, entitlement to the marketplace receiving you well, entitlement to compensation for your skill, not realizing that people don't care what you put in. People care what they got out. And if what I'm getting out of this doesn't feel like a deal for me, then why would I engage with your product to begin with? That's the problem that most entrepreneurs find themselves in. That's the problem we need to avoid. Cash flow matters more than hype. Again, I talk about Skinny Smooth Socks, I talk about Drip, lots of hype, lots and lots of hype. Again, we want to capture the market. So what? They're burning a lot of money trying to get to all the best retailers. They're burning a lot of money. They want to be in Markhams. They want to be in Sportsy. They want to be in all those very popular retailers. They want the billboards. They want this. They want that. And so the perception is, wow, this brand is so big. They have so much money. But the unit economics, the cash flow of the business, is what will not attract investors. If you don't have good unit economics, you don't have good cash flow, if your business isn't a cash printing machine, then I'm not going to want to invest in your business, period. Because at what point am I going to see my money? If your offer is, listen, you give me 1 million rand, and by the end of the year, you're going to get 5 million back, of course I'm going to give you 1 million rand. I'm gonna 5x my investment, just purely off of giving it to you. 100,000% I'm gonna do that. But if your proposition is, you give me 1 million rand and you maybe will see three in the next 3 years, that's a so value proposition. And the opportunity cost for me is like, how many other things could I have done with that million that would have netted me a lot more than the whatever percentage return over the 3 years? Do you get what I'm trying to say? If there is a return at all. because again, there's a lot that can happen in 3 years that will cause a business to go down, just the guys that I mentioned. So I don't say that to throw shade at anyone. I say that to say some of the fallacies that we have when we're approaching the marketplace, we're approaching the business world, is we tend to think that the marketplace again owes us something or cares what we have put in. It doesn't. It just cares, the customer cares what they get out, not what you put in. And so the real skill isn't raising money, it's creating a profitable acquisition system. Because once customers in is greater than the profit generated, um, and it works consistently. So once you get to a spot where the customers that you get in generate more profit, and the more customers you get, the more profit you get from the go, from the time you get a customer, that's adding to the bottom line. Once you get to that spot in your business, that is scalable. And so the next problem you deal with are the problems of scale, which are good problems, by the way, great problems to have, especially when you have money, especially when you're profitable. There's nothing worse than dealing with problems of scale without having the cash flow to support it. That's the true hell that most entrepreneurs find themselves into if they don't work rigorously to correct the unit economics of their business. And so, why most people fail is most people spend before the market validates their product, they build before the sale, they scale before systems. That's the complete wrong order, especially. So you spend before validation. Ridiculous. Get validated by the marketplace. And then when you know the people want it and they've given you the money to do so, then spend that money to create the thing that the people said that they want, right? You build before sales, meaning what? You're supposed to sell before you build it. If you sold it before you built it, again, you can use the money from the sales to build. So you can realistically make something from nothing if you're making the correct thing. Very, very important. If you're making the correct thing, you can make it out of thin air. Trust me. And lastly, systems before scale. Very important that you start with the systems because, and I know this now as I'm scaling people's businesses, you find that typically the instinct of the entrepreneur is, or what typically happens for people who find themselves lucky enough to have accidentally struck gold. They built first and they got into the situation, they've struck gold. Now leads are coming in, sales are going off, everything's happening, and there's too much demand and they can't manage it. They start panic hiring, they start throwing bodies at situations with the right job titles and the right job descriptions, and the people who say they can solve this problem. They and here's the thing: if you're not in a position where your unit economics are good and you're not hiring the right talent, but even if you do hire the right talent, if there are no systems or processes, the solution may be correct, but it may not be correct for your business. The only person who knows what is correct for your business is you, because you were there when it was being made, right? Right. And so to create processes and systems on how to fulfill certain functions before hiring. So it's like, I know what I want done, I know how I want it done. I'm just getting somebody in that can do it. And then all you need is a couple of simple core base skills. Like, okay, I need someone who's a good communicator, I need someone who understands the basics of marketing, I need someone who understands, depending again on the complexity of the company, but right now we're dealing with SMEs, for an example. So I need someone with this basic skill, that basic skill. And you need to get to the point where you're so good with your systems and processes that you can pull a random person off the street, introduce them to your system, and they can operate it. That's when you know you've really truly succeeded in creating the proper systems and processes. And then obviously to get them to function at 100% capacity, it would be best to get someone that knows what they're doing in terms of that specific role. And so, for simplicity's sake, a lot of business is you acquire the customer, you deliver value, you reinvest, you improve, you repeat. If you're not priced correctly, if you don't sell first before you build, then that entire loop gets messed up. But if you do price correctly, if you have the right systems in place, you can acquire the customer, deliver the value, reinvest, improve, repeat. And the virtuous thing about that cycle is when you've completed those things and you improve, is that you can build a better product for a higher quality customer. And so is the virtuous cycle of price and the virtuous cycle of customer finance acquisition is the more you make, the more people you can get in, the more you can charge for more premium iterations of your product or service due to the excess demand that is coming in, due to the value that all these people are getting on the bottom rung. And it's a much easier market position to start from a premium price, to start with Johnnie Walker Blue, and then release a black, and then release a red, than to start with the cheapie and try to work your way up the ladder. Just word to the wise. Just word to the wise. So, in the essence, or in the spirit of not keeping you here too long, I'm gonna close with this. The goal isn't to look like a business. The goal is to build something that can fund its own growth. That's the real leverage. And I think when we understand that, or the second we understand that, I think we can change a lot of lives. Is we're not building for perception. We're building for ownership. We're building to fundamentally change bloodlines, especially in a South African and African context as Black business professionals. We're not building for perception. So ultimately, the goal isn't to look like a business. The goal isn't to run a glorified nonprofit organization that is just in various different industries. And that's what happens when you don't differentiate your product. That's what happens when you're commoditized. But in any case, we'll get into that in another video. The goal isn't to look like you're running a business, to look like you're doing it. The goal is to build something that can fund its own growth. So there are a lot of problems of scale. We touched on that briefly, is that as you grow, there will be the problems of growth. Those problems can be addressed much easier if you have the funding to address them, if you have the funding to get the right people onto the various parts of the ecosystem you've built. And that whole process becomes a whole lot better for everyone involved if you've built something that can fund its own growth. Very, very fundamental principle for me, and something that I can think that I think would change the lives of a lot of people if the message got into the right hands consistently enough. The goal isn't to look like a business. The goal is to build something that can fund its own growth. Thank you for watching. I've been Sage. If you're an entrepreneur, Legacy Africa, link is in the description box down below. We would love to work with you. If you're not an entrepreneur and you still enjoy watching the video, thank you for watching. I do appreciate you. If you hit that subscribe button, it does mean the world to me. But in any case, I have been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.